It's easy to think that we know what the best superpower is. Something like time travel or telekinesis would make you incredibly powerful. But if you think about the way physics works, there's an even better power that most people don't think about. Being made out of dust. Controlling dust. It's a power that you wouldn't expect to be good, but in this story, I'm going to show you why. He didn't think of himself as the last gunslinger alive. The wind wisped across the black desert. The desert was the hottest desert of all time, but in the middle of the night, it was completely silent. The way the night sky and the stars went across the sky, you would think that nobody, no human, had ever walked these sands. And indeed, if Dust was a human, he probably would have disintegrated, died long ago of dehydration. But these days, Dust wasn't human anymore. But he was still a gunslinger. Tumbleweeds out there, Dust said, materializing out of dust, looking at the sunrise over the desert. It was going to be over 100 degrees again today. But Dust didn't care. He hadn't felt the heat or the cold on his body in a long time. It was so difficult. The memories were fragmented. He didn't remember when he used to be a man, who he was, where he came from. But he knew he was Dust, Tumbleweed said. The man made out of dead plants materialized, looking at Dust. They faced off against each other, a Mexican standoff. Dust's hand twitched towards his Dust revolver, and Tumbleweed's hand twitched towards his plant revolver as well. It was always this way. Dust, out here trying to keep the law of this dry desert. And Tumbleweed trying to get away being selfish. Dust went for his gun. He was faster than Tumbleweed. He'd be able to shoot faster. He went to aim and fire, but blam! Shot through the chest. The plant bullet went into his Dust. He wasn't hurt, you see. Dust was made entirely out of sand. It was easy for him to regenerate his chest, but Tumbleweed had never shot first before. It was this dance they did over the years, and this had never happened. I got you, Tumbleweed said, doing a little dance in the middle of the desert. I got you. That means I'm the king of this desert, Tumbleweed said. No, Dust said, that doesn't, but Tumbleweed was already off, turning into a rolling, dead plant, going through the desert. Dust chased after him, turning into a sandstorm, but the tumbleweeds were everywhere. You don't think about how many dead plants there are in a desert until they're all moving at once. Yee-haw, Tumbleweed said, tumbling through the sand. Dust uprooted some tumbleweed and ripped it apart using his dust hands, but he couldn't find it. He looked for another one, but Tumbleweed was laughing. So much for being the law out here in this desert. The sun was fully up now, shining down, hot. Dust could tell it was hot, even though he couldn't feel it. Who was he if he wasn't the fastest gunslinger? What had happened to him? He had never remembered a time when he wasn't faster than Tumbleweed, and yet Tumbleweed was the fastest. He materialized out of the dead plant and shot Dust through the chest again. Dust looked down. His hat made out of dust crumbled down. Man, you can't even materialize your hat, Tumbleweed said, laughing. I'm the king, baby. Dust looked up at Tumbleweed. Who taught you? He said. It doesn't matter, Tumbleweed said. He tumbled into the distance. Dust fell to his knees and then disintegrated into sand. He let himself blow on the wind for a while. If he wasn't the fastest gunslinger, who was he? Tumbleweed. Evil Tumbleweed, who didn't care about anybody, didn't care about keeping the law out in this desert, was king now. He sifted, and as he sifted and his dust got farther and farther away from each other, he started to forget who he was. He went to sleep. Help! The girl screamed. She was a human girl. Dust thought he was dreaming of something, a woman in his past. But when she screamed again and heard Tumbleweed laughing, Dust materialized just a little. He materialized one eye in the sand dune, taking a look. I got you now, girl. Far from home, ain't we? Tumbleweed loomed over a human girl. She must have been 19 or 20, in the middle of the desert, carrying research equipment. But it was all broken now, ripped apart by Tumbleweed's dead plants. Dust watched Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed was the king of the desert now. He was the law. He had beaten Dust somehow, and yet This was wrong, what Tumbleweed was doing. Tumbleweed grabbed the girl and put her in dead plants, looking at her, guarding her like a jewel. I might be made out of dead plants, but it don't mean I can't feel, Tumbleweed said, cackling. Dust's one eye in the sand dune looked. He saw Tumbleweed looking over his shoulder, frantically, even though that didn't make sense. He was a faster shot than Dust. What did he have to be afraid of? The guilty, Dust thought. The guilty are always looking over their shoulder, even if they're the strongest one, because they're doing wrong. They're against the law. The girl screamed out, "Please, I'm just doing research." "No more research now, girly girly," Tumbleweed said. The dead plant caressed her cheek. She cringed in pain. Enough. Dust materialized his body and his cowboy hat out of the dunes. Tumbleweed whirled around, but Dust fired, catching Tumbleweed in the back, knocking him down. "Oh, dagnabbit," Tumbleweed said. He dropped the girl and started pouting, sagging in the middle of the desert. "What?" the girl said, looking between Tumbleweed and Dust. "It's all right, girl," Dust said, putting his hand up. "I won the gunfight, which means that I rule the desert now." He walked up to her, a man made completely out of dust. She looked at his face and smiled a little. "What?" Dust said. "Oh, nothing. Just a story I heard once." She looked out at the desert and put her hands around her shoulders. "That here Tumbleweed ain't gonna hurt you anymore. He respects who the fastest gun in the desert is," Dust said. Tumbleweed tried to fire with his plant gun, but Dust turned around and shot over his shoulder, catching Tumbleweed in the face. He fell into the desert. "The thing about the desert is," Dust said, "there's so much more sand than there is dead plant." He smiled a little. "You sound exactly like him," the girl said. "What?" Dust said. "Cassius Jones," the girl said. "You don't know? From the Wild West?" Dust looked out, then he looked back at the girl. She had technology on her body, shiny things that he didn't understand. "The Wild West?" Dust said. "Yeah, he was gunslinger. You look just like him," the girl said. Dust realized a fundamental truth. He'd been rolling in the sand with Tumbleweed a little too long. Maybe this here world around him had forgotten who he was. Maybe it was time for him to change, to care about something longer than who was the ruler of this pile of dead sand. He turned and looked at the girl. "Yeah, that's me," Dust said, smiling. "What?" the girl said, looking between him and Tumbleweed. "And you're Rufus Jackson," Tumbleweed said, materializing out of dead plant. "The greatest outlaw who ever lived." The girl looked starstruck between the two of them. "And you're still alive?" "Well," Dust said. He materialized into sand and appeared next to the girl. "In some respects." "That's amazing," the girl said. "Could I research you? I wanted to research the desert, but this is fascinating. The way your skin is made out of..." But Dust started crying, tears of sand. "Tumbleweed," Dust said. He fell to his knees. "What?" Tumbleweed said. "Are you crying like a lily liver?" "No, Tumbleweed. This lady told me the Wild West is over." Tumbleweed started sobbing like a baby, grasping against the ground. "Why? Why?" The girl looked between these two giant entities, one made of sand and one made of plants, and she was uncomfortable. "It's all over, Tumbleweed," Dust said, crying. But the girl put her hand on Dust's sandy shoulder. "Don't cry," the girl said. "Why not?" Dust said. "There's no need for cowboys like us anymore. Ain't that right, Tumbleweed?" And Tumbleweed couldn't help but cry. But the girl shook her head and kneeled in front of him. "No, no, no. You don't understand. Yeah, maybe the Wild West is over. Maybe. But listen, injustice still exists. You have amazing abilities." She looked down at Dust's hand, his body. "You can still make a difference." Her eyes were full of hope. And Dust remembered something about the man he was before he became all of this. A promise he made to a man made out of gold on a hill, to keep the law no matter what. "That's how you beat me, isn't it?" Dust turned around, facing Tumbleweed. "The man on the hill. Oh, you got me," Tumbleweed said, looking out at the desert. "But if there's still injustice in the world," Tumbleweed said, "then that means there's crime too. Toodles." He went away into his tumbleweed form, and the girl watched him leave. "He's going to be a problem," she said. Dust turned, facing her. "I'm in need of a deputy. I don't normally require ladies to do it, but as you can see, I'm fresh out of options." He put his hand out to shake, looking her in the eyes. "What do you say?" And the girl looked between him and out at the horizon where Tumbleweed was going, and shook it.